Hi, welcome to Nanyang Education's Primary School Problem Sum series, where we go through upper primary problem sum techniques. In this video, we'll be covering part 2 of our series, Constant Total. This is our first video, Fractions, and we'll go through the basic techniques for this topic. Under our problem sum technique playbook, we have 10 different techniques to go through, and this is just our second topic. So don't forget to follow us for more updates on the next few videos. So for this video, the lesson plan will be as such. First, we'll cover a basic question with a step-by-step guide. Next, we have another basic question for you to attempt on your own. And lastly, we have an intermediate question for you to try on your own. Without further ado, let's jump right in. So George had 1/3 as many tables as Arthur. After Arthur gave 2 tables to George, they had the same number of tables. How many tables did they have in total? So our first step will be to draw a before change after model. So George and Arthur's ratio, we shall write down before 1:3. Next row will be the change. So Arthur gave 2 tables to George, so George will be +2 and Arthur will be -2. And after that, they had the same number of tables. So their ratio will be 1:1 for after. Next, we write down the last column for total. On the before row, there are 4 parts, and on the after row, there are 2 parts. Now step 2, we need to notice that during this exchange, the total remains the same. So with this table, we need to multiply the after row by 2 to balance out with the before row. And we get 2 units is to 2 units is to 4 units. That's consistent with the before row, which also has 4 units. Now with this table, we can continue with our step 3 to solve for 1 unit. Now let's look at the change. We can see George's change, which is after minus before, we get 2 units minus 1 unit equals to 1 unit. That's a change, which is, as the question states, 2 tables. Lastly, we can finally solve for the number of tables they have in total, which is 4 units. 4 times 2, we get 8. So they had 8 tables in total. Now let's do a recap. Our first step will be to draw a before change after model. Step 2 will be to notice that the total remains the same and equate it together in our before change after model. Step 3, we can find out what 1 unit is. And finally, we can solve the question easily. Now that we have learned how to do the questions, let's attempt another one. Max had 4 out of 5 as many gifts as Rudolph. After Max took 36 gifts from Rudolph, Max had 7 out of 2 as many gifts as Rudolph. So how many gifts did Max have now? Feel free to pause the video and attempt the question. You can resume once you're ready. Alright, so let's write down the ratio of Max and Rudolph. On the before row, we have 4 units is to 5 units. For the change, we write down Max plus 36 because he took it from Rudolph. Then Rudolph will be minus 36. After that, their ratio will be 7 units is to 2 units. Let's look at their total. How coincidental! It's 9 units for both, so we don't need to change anything. However, for more difficult questions, this will not be the case. Now we can actually look at the gifts taken by Max in terms of units. We should have 7 units minus 4 units equals 3 units. And as the question tells us, this is 36. Now we can find out how much 1 unit is, which is 36 divided by 3 equals to 12. So how many gifts did Max have now? As our table states, he has 7 units, which is 12 times 7, 84. So that's our answer. Max had 84 gifts. Now let's try an intermediate difficulty question. There were 7 out of 3 as many tadpoles as frogs. After some time, 16 tadpoles grew up into frogs. So now, there were 3 out of 2 as many tadpoles as frogs. How many frogs were there now? Feel free to pause the video and attempt the question. You can resume once you're ready. Alright, so our first step would be to write down the ratio of tadpoles and frogs at first, which would be 7:3. Our change would be minus 16 tadpoles because they grew up into frogs. So, plus 16 frogs. Then we write down the ratio after the exchange, which is 3:2. Next, let's look at the total. The number of parts before would be 10, and after would be 5. Now in this exchange, the total remains the same, so we need to equate these two together. How so? We need to multiply the after row by 2. That way we can get our total to be 10 units. So with that, we can write down our new before change after table. The after row being tadpoles 6 units, frogs 4 units. And total is always 10 units. Now let's see, how many tadpoles actually grew up? Let's look at the change. We take 7 units minus 6 units equals to 1 unit. And as the question tells us, this is 16. So the question asks us, how many frogs were there now? As the table says, 4 units. We take 16 times 4 equals 64. So that's our answer. There were 64 frogs now. Did you get it? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Bye!